Hey friends, thank you so much for joining me in another how to draw video. In this drawing lesson, we'll color the lily from the previous video. Okay, so what I have here are some colored pencils. I have the sort of red tones, the red purple here, some greens, yellow, and brown red-ish color. And what we're gonna do is take this thing, which is unfinished, and add some more details and create some more interest using the colored pencils. So the first thing I want to do is sort of add this redness to the petals, and I begin from the center and I sort of make my way outwards with the colored pencils. And you'll notice how just by adding this layer that sort of mimics the just by adding this layer, you sort of get an effect that mimics the surface of the leaves, of the petals of the lily here. It sort of makes this dotted surface look better. And also I think the color complements it. Now I didn't get to darken this area, but I do think it was correct to do so and not just end the watercolors here. So I can kind of go back with the colored pencils and try to blend it in and make it look more correct. Just, I think this is the right word. And another thing is the colored pencils, they aren't really a must. I think I'm just not completely pleased with the way this turned out, so I'm trying to improve it, patch it up with the colored pencils. But the thing is that colored pencils aren't a must, but they do help in many practical ways. For example, if I want to blend that line between the dark area and the bright area, I can really do that with a lot of ease using the colored pencils. So they do have some more logical, logistical, I don't know how to call this, uses. Moving on to the next petal here, and the thing with colored pencils is that everyone kind of remembers how to use them, because almost everyone used them in kindergarten or just when they were kids, and they are very simple. The thing is, you can't rely on them entirely. I think, some people do that and they create beautiful works and sometimes even hyper realistic ones, but the thing is that it's very time consuming. So colored pencils really it takes a lot of time to cover large areas, and you've seen with the watercolors how easy it is to cover large areas rather quickly. So this is another advantage to watercolors. Now what I'm doing here is this wavy shape of the leaf, so I'm treating this as if this part should be darker, these lower parts, and this part, the upper part of the curve, is brighter, and this sort of creates a wavy look. I think I'll do that same thing here on this side. And it sort of adds this grace to it. But as you can see, even just adding the details is very time consuming, and I'm obviously not going to do everything in this video in real time, as I always never get to. But yeah, together they create magic, the colored pencils and the watercolors. Some people would disagree that you need both. Some will work just with one. I think the sort of middle ground here is to use both. And you know, I'm at fault in this as well, because you should really try a lot of things, and I feel like lately I haven't tried enough things, enough new mediums, and I think it's time to shake things up a bit and maybe start using something new. I'm not sure what it'll be, but I'm seeing this is something that's about to happen with my art adventures. I think I'll just get this part again really quickly and kick it into time-lapse to get some of the other petals done, and then we'll go over the rest again in real time. So let me finish these up and I'll be back really soon. Okay, now I want to move to these parts here that I used a very dark red for. The thing is, I am looking at some other reference and I see that they have a pretty red tone, and so I do want to get that in here in some way, perhaps with a darker tone of red, or this one as well, it works. Maybe I'll go back with a darker brown later on to even things up. But I'm just going over it. And again, just by creating that second layer, you get a nice texture. You don't really have to do anything too smart here. The very texture of the pencil is what makes this look good. And now I have this sort of brown that I want to get in here. Let's see which one will do. Yeah, that one will do. And I kind of use it to darken back the areas that I initially darkened with the watercolors. And this already looks a little better. We can pretty much move to the green now. The thing is, with the green, it's going to be again pretty straightforward. What I'm going to do is darken the areas that are more hidden, more obscure, and blend the shading that I created earlier, just so that it looks a little more more correct, I guess, again. This is the very heart of the flower, and it needs to be significantly darker. So I may switch to a different color altogether in a second. And as you can see here, I'm blending the edges between what I shaded and the brighter initial first layer of watercolors. And here I want to get even darker, so I'll just apply more pressure on the pencil. And I'll switch to a yet darker tone. It's not just a darker tone, it's a slightly different one. And I think it really adds this nice touch when you add a different color to the shading. It's a well-known trick. A lot of people do that. It tends to look more interesting, more lively. So don't be afraid to shade, you know, these pink parts with a purple tone, let's say. Something similar, but a bit different. I can sometimes shade green using blue, and it'll look good. You need to experiment with this and find what seems to work for you, for the specific drawing you're working on. And I even, like, a lot of people would go as far as, not a lot, but some people would go as far as add some very light touches of green around these small stems on the pink parts, just to create this sort of a mirroring effect. And you know what, I'm doing it, and it doesn't look too bad, actually. And now we'll work a bit on the yellow part, because I think it's sort of looks a bit anemic, too bright, and not really, doesn't have an oomph to it. So I'm just going over it with a yellow colored pencil, and this just simply going over it, because now I'm gonna whip out an orange colored pencil, and that'll really bring things home here. So I'm going from bottom to top and significantly darkening this center part here, keeping just a bit of the original tone of yellow. And I think we might want to add some purple, just like I said a second ago, to the darker parts, and you know what, even to the entire petal, because I think it'll create an interesting effect here, sort of in the around the darker areas as well. I'm really just trying to work intuitively. Sometimes just using your intuition to sort of decide on what tones to use or what colors to use, it can work, you know. Sometimes it can backfire for sure, and you can get in a lot of trouble with your drawing. It's just not gonna look good. But sometimes your intuition knows what will look good, and I'm sure I was mistaken with a lot of things here, but I think the purple specifically works really well here. Purple in general is a color that's used a lot to shade things that are in the distance. You'll see it a lot in comics and American comics. Comics here in Israel do that a lot, sort of using the purple to create things that are in the background. And as a really final touch, I'll use the purple as well, just to create this sort of make the dots that I drew earlier softer. I'm not sure if it maybe let me switch to the more purple tone here. Maybe it'll work better, because I feel like I dropped them and they are kind of too dark. Maybe we can soften them by drawing more dots. You really have to experiment with this. But generally speaking, I think we are nearly done here. I have a lot to learn when it comes to colored pencils and watercolors especially, but I think this is a decent piece of work here. And that's it. We can wrap this video up. Thank you so much for watching me draw. I hope it inspires you and is just fun for you. And feel free to ask any questions if you have regarding the process or whatever you want to know. And if this video helped you, please subscribe to the channel. I'm really filming a lot, recording a lot of these, and that's it. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next video.